Doesn't it matter to you that no one likes you and no one wants you around?
A few years ago, a man cornered me in the hallway of a house I was renting a room
Fucking
in and dropped those exact words. He thought it was an emotional nuclear bomb. See, this was a man who lived to control. The moment he moved into that house, he tried to subjugate everyone around him, especially the women. But knowing me, you can probably guess how that went down. I have a zero tolerance policy for manipulation. No one manipulates me. Period. When I immediately set hard boundaries, he upped the ante. He launched a campaign of slander, creating situations he could blame on me, trying to poison my reputation with the landlady, and forced me to comply. I didn't fold. I staged a public showdown right in front of the landlady and warned them both about the legal consequences of their collusion. And that's when he cornered me, desperate for a reaction, and asked, "Doesn't it bother you that no one wants you around?" On the face of it, I was taken aback. I hadn't sat down and pondered whether people liked me since childhood. So I retreated to my room. I prayed. I thought deeply. And in that quiet space, I arrived at a foundational truth that governs who I am today. There are only two beings in this universe whose opinion of me actually matters: my God and the reflection looking back at me in the mirror. As long as I can look at my own reflection with respect, and as long as my Creator approves of my choices, what anyone else thinks is entirely their issue, not mine. When he repeated the confrontation later, I looked him in the eye and told him exactly that. Then I quietly packed up and left for a more congenial living space. Moving out wasn't a retreat, it was a strategic execution of my own value. I refused to let his desperate play for control drain my peace or my time. Now, why am I sharing this personal story with you today? Because that confrontation in the hallway wasn't just an isolated incident with a bad roommate. It is a perfect microcosm of the exact insidious disease eating away at our modern economy. The same manipulation that man tried to use on me is being used every single day by bad actors in government and commerce to control, subjugate, and bankrupt an unsuspecting public. Let's look at the first group of puppet masters, the opportunistic politicians. They look at the natural economic anxieties of the working class and they prey on a victim mindset. They peddle a poisonous narrative that says, the system is rigged, you are a helpless victim, and the business owner is the villain holding you back. They completely erase the reality of sweat equity, financial risk, and the immense responsibility it takes to build a company. They beguile people with socialist and communist propaganda, making fake promises of state-guaranteed success and programs that require zero effort on your part. But here is the catch they never mention. Every single time you accept their savior rhetoric, you give up a little more of your personal responsibility. You trade your sovereignty for an illusion of safety, slowly spiraling down into poverty and despair, while those same politicians use insider information to line their own pockets and pander to corporate monopolies. But commerce isn't innocent either. Bad actors in business deliberately prey on the worker by weaponizing the independent contractor label in the modern gig economy. They dangle the carrot of freedom and choosing your own hours, baiting workers who are still trapped in an employee mindset. They convince you that flexibility is enough compensation, while they quietly pass 100% of the operational overhead onto your shoulders. You pay the full self-employment tax burden. You pay for the fuel, the vehicle depreciation, the equipment, and the liability insurance, while the corporation takes zero responsibility and cuts their overhead to the bone. It's the classic definition of insanity, running from gig to gig, looking for the next good job or policy change to save you, while playing a game where the rules are completely rigged against you. To break this loop of insanity, we have to look at the cold, hard history of work. For decades, the standard contract of work was simple. I trade 40 hours of my time and you provide a stable livelihood with automatic upward mobility. Taking 100% personal accountability for your financial life is terrifying because it means you no longer have anyone else to blame. But it is also the most liberating realization you will ever have. Because the moment you realize you are the problem, you also realize you are the solution. But starting in the early 1970s, that contract shattered. Economists call it the Great Decoupling. If you look at the data from 1948 until 1973, worker productivity and hourly compensation climbed together in perfect lockstep. But after 1973, productivity skyrocketed due to technology and automation, while typical wages completely flattened out. Why did this happen? It happened because workers and consumers are the exact same people, and we demanded two entirely incompatible things. As workers, we demanded higher wages, comprehensive health care, and robust perks. But as consumers, we voted with our wallets for the absolute lowest prices. To survive that squeeze, businesses had to change their entire mindset. They stopped viewing labor as a long-term asset to be nurtured and began viewing it as a variable cost to be minimized, automated, or outsourced. This brings us to a massive delusion holding millions of workers captive today: the complacency of trading absolute personal freedom for the false promise of a stable paycheck. Most people believe that being a W-2 employee is the safest, most secure path to achieving financial security. But as a behavioral scientist, I look at the power dynamics. When you accept that traditional paycheck, you aren't buying security. You are leasing out your sovereignty. Think about the sheer amount of control you willingly surrender to an employer. They cap your value. The employer determines exactly how much you are allowed to earn. They dictate your environment. They determine where you work, when you work, and who you must work alongside, regardless of whether those people drain your energy or align with your values. They control your tasks. You have to do exactly what the employer dictates if you want to keep that check coming. They own your survival. In an at-will employment landscape, they can slash your hours, restructure your department, or terminate your livelihood at any moment, for any reason or no reason at all. Real financial security cannot exist when someone else holds the master key to your income. When I started researching this reality as a behavioral scientist, mystery shopper, and gig worker, the raw math of employment shocked me. And this is the piece of education that hits people like a 2x4 to the stomach. Most people with an employee mindset think that if they are paid $25 an hour, they cost the business $25 an hour. They are completely blind to what business owners call the fully burdened labor cost. To have a human being on the payroll, a business must pay mandatory payroll taxes, workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, and healthcare contributions. When you add physical desk space, computers, specialized software licenses, liability insurance, recruitment costs, and management overhead, the multiplier is brutal. The baseline break-even cost of an employee is easily 1.5 to 2.5 times their base salary. If you earn a base salary of $25 an hour, you actually cost that business closer to $37.50 to $50 an hour just to exist on the payroll. But here is the second, even harder truth that workers never think about. A business is not a nonprofit charity. For a business to survive, grow, weather economic storms, buy new equipment, pay for marketing, and reward the business owner for taking 100% of the financial risk, the business must make a net profit. This means that for the math to work, your labor cannot just generate enough to cover your break-even cost. Your work must generate direct revenue equivalent to 3 to 4 times your hourly wage. If you are being paid $25 an hour, your labor must bring in $75 to $100 of direct revenue or value every single hour you are on the clock. If your output only generates $30 or $40 of value, you are not an asset. You are a financial drain. You are a liability that is actively dragging the company toward bankruptcy. Another issue that employees don't look at is the ability of the work they do to generate direct revenue into the employer's business. If your position is a traditional support position, like a clerical position, operations position, customer service position, or other entry-level position or middle management position, where your job duties do not directly generate income for the company and bring it into their bank accounts, then you are a liability to the company and an expense. Worker demands for higher salaries, more benefits and perks for these types of positions directly drive management and administrative decisions to look for ways to cut or eliminate these costs. The current shift by businesses to using automation and AI to handle these jobs is clearly a prudent and realistic way to meet the market demands for lower prices while providing the level of service to customers that keep it solvent. Current economic experts project this event massively affecting the job economy in the US over the next 4 years by converting over 300 million jobs currently held by human beings to automation or AI by the year 2030. So let me ask you 3 very direct, very honest questions. First, does the job you were hired to do meet the qualification of being an asset, or are you just marking time in your position being a liability to your company? Next, does your work directly generate enough income to the company that is 3 to 4 times your hourly rate in a given hour to justify having you on the payroll? And finally, thinking about the last day you worked, did what you did during the last hour of your workday actually generate enough value to pay for your membership on your company's team? If you cannot soundly answer yes to every one of these questions, you may have just discovered why you find yourself looking for a new or an additional job. The most important question is, what do you have to offer today's employer that would make them see you as an asset they want to hire? If you spent that last hour checking your personal phone, gossiping with a coworker, or slowly dragging your feet to run out the clock, the answer is an absolute no. You cost the business money. You expected a free paycheck paid for by trading mere time while producing zero value to back it up. Once you understand this math, you realize why looking for a better paycheck or demanding a $25 plus hourly minimum wage for basic labor is an insanity loop. The system cannot and will not pay you more for your time. It can only pay for value. So how do you break the cycle of dependency and protect your financial future? You must do exactly what I did in that hallway. You must step out of the emotional me versus them narrative and take complete, unyielding control of your own outcomes. You must lean flat-footed into the 5 core values we teach at the Larson Family Enterprises Group: integrity, honesty, commitment, accountability, and reliability. True financial sovereignty requires a complete identity shift. First, stop expecting a business owner to give you a job. It is not their job to secure your livelihood. It is your job to develop high-value skills that businesses are eager to buy. Second, treat yourself as a business of one. If you are a gig worker or an independent contractor, stop acting like an employee who just gets to choose their hours. Start tracking your business expenses, understanding your tax burdens, and pricing your solutions based on the value you create, not the hours you sit in a seat. And finally, stop looking outward for a savior. No politician is coming to balance your checkbook. No government program will hand you independent wealth without demanding your freedom in return. Taking 100% personal accountability for your financial life is terrifying because it means you no longer have anyone else to blame. But it is also the most liberating realization you will ever have, because the moment you realize you are the problem, you also realize you are the solution. Just like the mirror in my room, your success ultimately requires only 2 signatures, yours and God's. Once you accept that, the puppet masters lose their power, the manipulation stops working, and you can finally step off the insanity loop and build a life of genuine, lasting success. The traditional economic model is broken, but you don't have to remain a casualty of the shift. If you are ready to stop leasing your sovereignty and start building a bulletproof roadmap to financial independence, I want to help you take the next step. Join me for my webinar, Breaking the Decoupling: How to Take 100% Accountability and Build True Value Sovereignty. To secure your spot right now, text the word WORK to the number on your screen, or leave a comment right below this video and my team will reach out to get you registered. Don't wait for the economy to change. Take control of the reflection in the mirror today. I'm Jeanette. I'll see you in the webinar.